Well, welcome to the Brother Mark Scott Show. I have the opportunity this evening of interviewing a very intelligent and lovely lady by the name of Dr. Michele. I tell you, Dr. Harvey, it is amazing. I've had the opportunity of speaking with her multiple times. We were Facebook friends a few years back, then kind of lost touch. But, Facebook always allows you to kind of view on what people post and see how their life progresses. So I don't want to take up too much time in this introduction. I want to bring her into the studio and allow her to introduce herself. So with no further ado, Dr. Michele, how are you doing?
I am doing great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for joining me here on the Brother Mark Scott Show. You are absolutely accomplished. And before I get into those things, I just want to give you an opportunity to formally introduce yourself.
All right. So, hello, everyone. So my name is Dr. Michele Harvey. I'm also known as Dr. Michele West. If you Google me, that would be what's on my degrees and my license and everything. I'm recently married. So I'm currently a third-year resident physician at the University of Minnesota. My area of specialty is anatomical and clinical pathology. I will soon be a fellow in the area of transfusion medicine, which is a subspecialty of pathology. My previous experiences have been, I was an adjunct professor at Concord Career College, and then I did teach anatomy and physiology and microbiology there. And then even previous to that, I was a medical lab technologist for many years, which is what gave me my experience in the area of pathology and gave me my love for it.
Wow. Wow. Now, Dr. Harvey, one of the things that when a lot of people see you, automatically they're going to assume, oh, here's another beautiful face, another beautiful woman. But your accomplishments give an undertone of just how intelligent and focused you are. Made you decide you wanted to go into medicine?
Oh, very interesting question. So when I was at Nassau Community College, my major was actually fashion design. And I just thought that, like growing up, I was like, yeah, I just want to get into fashion and I want people to feel better. And so I went into Nassau with a fashion design major. But at that point, I realized that it was just a hobby. I needed something that gave me more escape in my mind, more escape in my spirit. And I knew that I was always good with sciences because I did very well in high school in sciences. So I was just like, God, like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I don't know what to do. And so my spirit said, go to the E and F building. Now, the E and F building at Nassau is where they had all of your allied health sciences.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I got exposed to medical lab technology. So I switched to that. And then when I started working in the hospital in hematology, urinalysis, coagulation, then I saw all of these other specialties. And then when I saw medical physicians, I was like, oh, I like that. I like what they do. I like, their scope of practice. So from that point on, I just made my, goal to be a physician. And so that's basically how I stumbled upon it. I have no physicians in my family. There was no one that, steered me towards that way. I'm the first physician in my family.
Wow. So talk to me a little bit about family life. What was life like growing up for you? Again, since you didn't have any doctors in your family, what was your family life like growing up?
There's pluses and minuses. The pluses is I did have, I would say, probably a higher middle income. My family, my parents owned a lot of real estate. They also worked in the government. So I was raised pretty well. I went to private school my whole life. And I was a bona fide preacher's kid. I was raised Church of God in Christ, Kojic. I had to sing, do praise and worship. It was you either sing, preach, or play the organ.
Yeah.
Play an instrument. So I was like, I'll just sing. And so I, was raised, singing. And then at the same time, I also experienced a sexual abuse. So
Mm,
I had a lot of, childhood trauma. So it was kind of, pluses and minuses. Like,
right,
yeah, financially, we had it. We were okay financially.
right.
We did pretty well, but you know, that those experiences is what traumatized me a whole lot.
And so many people deal with trauma, especially our women in our community. There is a lot of things. I remember coming from a generation where it was certain things that just weren't talked about publicly. And if there were situations like that going on, a lot of times people tried to keep it in house and deal with it. Um, since you've opened that door, let's talk a little bit about how you were able to remain functional and continue to move on after dealing with trauma. Like, how did that alter your outlook on life and what you wanted?
Um, I and I still struggle with today. I have a lot of self hatred. I think that that's what started to really bring from there. Like just feeling like everything about me is bad. How you conceptualize or come to terms with abuse is that, well, perhaps I was chosen because I'm bad.
Mm,
Therefore, you throw yourself into either two things. Some people throw themselves into drugs and everything. I threw myself into school and education, um,
right.
and always being busy. So I did that thinking that that was going to make me better or make me
Hmm.
bad. And at times, if I felt that I was failing or not meeting a mark, um, then I would end up. I struggle a lot with self harm. So there was a lot of like self harm, like cutting and things like that. That was something else that I also used to kind of medicate myself, and that became an addiction, and it got worse into my first marriage actually.
Wow. Wow.
So it was kind of like two things. Like I threw myself into school and that, and then at the same time I had struggles with um, self-esteem, like a lot of self-hatred, and then self-harm.
Mm. And it's hard just looking at you now to imagine that you had those kind of struggles. But
Mhm.
when you were deep going through your challenges and your struggles, was there anybody that maybe recognized any telltale signs or maybe reached out to you? Or did you just feel like you were isolated and it was kind of like your own dirty secret that you just had to deal with yourself?
Yeah, I was isolated. It was, there was no one that reached out to me to say like, oh, I think I see that you're struggling in the church. Now, fast forward going to California, when I was there and they noticed that I had some struggles, I was shamed for it.
Wow.
It wasn't that I was helped. And that's the problem. And then since then, I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why I stopped going to church.
Mm,
Because I just thought that I was going to find some kind of tranquility, wholeness. I was going to be able to at least be transparent about the things that was going on. But no, I was shamed for it. So
mm,
because of that, I just decided to just not go to church. I mean, that was just,
mm.
I did not get any help there
Wow.
at all. And so, um, it's sad because I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's like you said, like me, I don't know if people assume that, oh well, look how she dresses, or look what she's doing, so she should be okay.
Right.
And and then maybe that's why I didn't get the whole like sympathy. I didn't get anyone like reaching out to me.
Right.
But um for me, I still needed it. I
Yeah.
still needed someone to say like, no, what the things you feel about yourself are not true.
Right.
Just
Somebody to actually see you
yeah,
through all the outer shell that you were able to put up, the persona that you were able to hold together. And I think a lot of people, and in particular, I see this with a lot of my sisters, the ability to take trauma and suppress it and then kind of put on this cloak of strength, this, I'm the ultra super, I can do this all by myself. I don't need nobody. And you seem to actually balance that well, because a lot of our sisters, and I just talk culturally here, a lot of our sisters, when they go through things, they take on this very masculine kind of hard demeanor. And it's like, don't mess with me. But you seem to project a certain level of softness and femininity. How have you been able to keep that part of you intact after going through that trauma so young?
Well, I think how I was raised, probably.
Right.
My mom, my parents are almost 80. Okay. So I was raised very, very, very old.
Traditional, right? Very
Yes.
traditional.
Yeah. And so, because of that, I think just how my mom how she carries herself, that probably some of that is instilled in me. And I actually find peace in being feminine. I never found being masculine. Um, I don't know. It didn't jive well with my energy. So I didn't want to be that. I still like being my full feminine self, and that's why I wanted to be in a relationship and in a marriage where I feel safe to be
Yeah.
my full feminine self.
Wow. Wow. And speaking of being safe in relationships, now I know we've talked a little bit about your first marriage,
Mm-hmm.
and that wasn't the ideal situation.
Mm-mm. Not at all.
Do you think your trauma played a part into how your first marriage unraveled, or was it more just the person that you chose, your first husband, were y'all just unequally yoked? Y'all just weren't a good match for each other?
I would say a little bit of all of that. You know, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and chronic um, post-traumatic stress disorder. So when you have someone that's a borderline who is full of emotion, and when we're triggered, we're very, very emotional. And then you
Yeah.
have someone that has narcissistic traits, who lacks empathy, does things to trigger you so that you can go on this, so they can point the finger and say, oh, look, she has issues.
Mm.
Um,
It's
that's
kind of like gaslighting.
Yes. So there would be things like, I'll say, well, I don't have access to the bank account. And you're always saying that you don't have money. So where's the money? You have access to my account. No, I don't. Yes, you do. Remember, I showed you this, and then you'll be sitting there thinking, well, maybe he did give me access, you know. But then when something happens, and it's like, well, I need access to the account, or where's your money? Then he'll go into a fit of rage, and then that'll cause me to be triggered, and then I'll end up in a psychiatric hospital. That was the continuous cycle.
Wow. Wow. So how long did this cycle go on, and what was it that allowed you to finally break out of that cycle?
When I started dialectical behavioral therapy in 2012, um, and once I got better and I made a decision that I was definitely going to go to med school, I think that transition into getting into medical school and then being exposed to a different group of people that were saying, Michelle, like, you're a great woman. No, you're smart. And I was exposed to different messages that I was not hearing in my marriage. It was kind of like, oh, well, maybe there's something, to this. So I think when I got into medical school, I got the courage and the confidence to say, I don't think I want to bring this into my future career, because I
Yeah.
don't see how I would make it in medicine if I stayed in this type of marriage. Once I became, I would say, more ambitious, and got into medical school, my marriage actually got worse.
Really?
Yes, it got worse when I got into medical school. And I feel that happened because, um, it was a play to control. I think that was a way to control. So let me, not work. Let me not provide for the family. Let me live off everything that she's doing, all of her student loans and whatever, and drain her finances, and then still have more fits of rage, more domestic violence, and all of those things to basically keep me from wanting to leave. Um, but in 2018, I said, I can't take it. I have to go.
Yeah.
I was like, it was between my sanity and just trying to merely just keep the family together just because we were together. I didn't feel safe to do that. And actually the children were happy that I decided to end the marriage.
Wow. And I like to kind of look back. Hindsight is always 2020.
Mm-hmm.
If you could look back on that first marriage, were there any red flags in the beginning that maybe you ignored, overlooked, that after you got out of it, you were like, you know what? I shouldn't have set myself up in that position? Or is there any accountability on your end for, you know what, I made some mistakes getting into that situation? What would be your take on that?
Absolutely. So, funny that you asked that question. First sign was him asking me to co-sign for my wedding ring. So me helping to purchase my own wedding ring and my engagement ring. That was the first sign. But the thing was, I signed some documents for my family and they didn't pay me back. So my credit is low and, I need some help. So I thought that it was like, okay, he's helping his family, and okay, that was the first sign.
Mm-hmm.
Second sign was going to the honeymoon. Now, we were already stuck after we already said I do.
Right.
But early on, the second sign was going to the honeymoon. Now the agreement was he pays for the honeymoon, I pay for the wedding.
Okay.
We got to the honeymoon, and as soon as we got down there, he said, I had no money. We got out of the country to another on an island, and then he said, I have no money. So I had to call my mom.
So wait. Hold on. So he waited till after y'all left the country to pop that on you.
He waited till we got down there.
Ah.
Say, Michelle, I don't have any money. So I had to call. We didn't eat for maybe over 24 hours. I had nothing to eat because
that's a hell of a honeymoon.
Yeah, I had to wait for my mom to put money in my account so that we can use while we were down there. Now, the money that she put in the account was money that I got from the wedding, of which all of my family gave money. They gave wedding gifts.
Yeah.
His family did not give anything. I mean, you say that you go through the cards, they didn't give anything. I think only one to two people maybe have given a card, but I think the whole 4,000 or 5,000, or whatever, that all came from the West family. I have a big family, so when they came, they gave. But that money some of that money went towards the honeymoon. Third sign. Now, mind you, we had a long distance relationship. So I was in New York. He was in California. We met on a dating website. Fast forward, I met my husband on a dating website too. But
I met my girlfriend on a dating website. Nothing wrong with dating websites.
Because once you get like that one bad experience, you're kind of like, oh, hell no. But I did try it a second time. But so we had a very long distance relationship, so I wasn't able to be around him as much. It was this was mostly on the phone. But when I would go and visit him, his apartment was spotless, and I'm saying like it was clean. Third sign. We signed so we got married 2008. December 2007, we got the lease for the apartment. Now, everything was clean. It was fine. I cooked food.
Right.
As a celebration for our first place. That was my first time even getting an apartment, moving out of my parents' house.
Yeah.
Cook food. Now, mind you, December 2007, fast forward, August 2008.
Right.
We land in California and I opened the door and the place was trashed. The carpet that was off-white was brown. There was papers all over the place. He had clothes all over the bed. It was a mountain of clothes.
So you like dealing with a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde here.
Yes. And then the part that was the same food that I cooked December 2007 was still in the refrigerator August 2008.
Wait a minute. 9 months, the same food sitting in the refrigerator.
Same food.
And nobody helped you vet this guy. Like what did your father, your mother, did anybody in your family meet him before y'all got married?
Yes. Yes. I wouldn't say that there was a healthy vetting. I think there's a difference between, this is the type of man that I want for you versus just, I don't know. I guess the word is just unhealthy vetting.
Yeah.
Healthy and unhealthy vetting. If I ask you as a father, what kind of man do you want me to be with? And you can't answer that question, then you can't vet.
Ooh. Yeah.
That question, you have to say, I would like for you to be him to, look like this or have this job, but you can't healthily vet if,
you're not involved, you're not participating, you're not.
And an answer, because even with my husband, my dad didn't want me to be with Michael. And so the question was, okay, what kind of man do you want me to be with? Now I'm older, I have more confidence to just be like,
I got to make a decision for my life now.
Yeah, but I was like, well, then let me answer this question then. What kind of man do you want me to be with? And he was not able to answer that question. And if you can't answer that question, then you can't vet.
Yeah. No. And again, as a father, because I was just having this conversation with my youngest daughter. She's 17, getting ready to turn 18, about to graduate high school. She's already had, a couple relationships at school, had her heart broke. And I just was honest with her, like, you're going to identify a good man. He's going to have a purpose that's bigger than him, something that will discipline him. And again, I don't care how wonderful a woman you are, how beautiful you are, no matter what you do, if he himself as a man is not established in his purpose, there's nothing you can do as a woman to make him a better man.
Mm-hmm. And then at her age, you're going to have to define that, because she's young. I understand that being in my 30s.
Right.
But, so at her age, you have to define, like, okay, what do you mean by his purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Like having a plan.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's important for a man to have a plan. I think when he doesn't, the family structure fails. Yeah. And I know that because that was my first marriage.
Right.
So when you say purpose, that means he has a plan. Like, I know that by this age, I want to do this. I have this goal. I see myself here.
Right.
That's somebody, a purpose and a plan. I feel like that's, one and the same.
I absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of people who are just kind of drifting through life, some just kind of going paycheck to paycheck, party to party, again, situation to situation, but they have no goals. They're not planning anything. They're not working towards something. They're just existing. And when you're just existing, you're kind of at the whims and mercies of life. So definitely as a man, you've got to have a purpose. And it's not always about the money, because that's one of the things I think our society probably puts up as one of the defining characteristics for a man is income. But there's some guys who make great income, but they have low character. And there's some guys who they might not be there yet, but they've got a plan. Or maybe they've had a setback or two, and the money might not be there in the moment, but their character, their drive, their purpose, and their plan is so solid that you know it's just a matter of time before they get there.
Yeah, but that takes discipline. You
It
know,
does.
I think discipline, and I know people may get on me. I there's some aspects about Kevin Samuels that I do like. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I watched him a lot. There were a lot of things that I did like. I didn't like the comment about the whole not believing the child. I'm maybe because that's just personal to me.
Again, shout out to the Godfather. May he rest in peace, Kevin Samuels. And again, my girlfriend, she was triggered every time she would hear his voice. She would just get triggered. She couldn't stand him. But after having a few conversations and kind of listening to more than just sound bites, she was kind of like you. She agreed he had some good points, but there are some things that again were personal. And again, I had to admit, a lot of the conversations he had towards men, I didn't qualify. Not a high value guy. I wouldn't be that guy. But the principles that he talked about as far as us as a community, absolutely valuable. And we need to have these conversations even more so.
Me watching his videos, I actually practiced some of the things he said in my relationship with Michael. And I found that some of that did work.
Such as?
Not being as combative.
Whoa.
Yeah, not being combative. Like Michael is more of an alpha guy. So when he's set strong on something, if I feel the urge to be defensive because I feel like, is he saying that I'm wrong? I have to learn to take that in a little bit. Say like, okay, let me understand where he's coming from rather than get defensive.
Yeah.
Because, women, especially if you do have some abuse, you do take a lot of things as like, is he putting me down?
Right.
So, the whole defensive, like, oh, but that's not what I meant. Or, no, is this. I think that just doing that did work. Another thing is a lot of women would assume that men don't like gifts. So, I would do things, for him. I think a few months into dating, I know one thing is I was like, because I know he was seeing other women prior to me. I was like, no, you're getting rid of that bed set. We're not sharing that. But I remember going, I think, he bought the set. But what I did is before he came home from work, I made sure that his house was straight. I cooked him some food and I remade his room. Right. Just little things like that, just to see, how, I don't know, just to make him feel like I do care. I do see you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times I think Michael felt, even in his previous relationship, he was in a 20-year relationship. I think he felt like he was just a bank. He would just have to go to work, come home with the money. He said Father's Day, he would have to pay for his own meal for Father's Day. There was no gifts. Christmas, it was the same thing. So he always felt like, well, what about me? So when I heard him say that, then I said, okay, I'm going to do differently, for him. And when Kevin Samuels said that men do like to get gifts,
we do.
And do things like, then I was like, oh, okay.
Men like to be courted by their women. We like to be appreciated. Again, and it is amazing because hearing you say that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of women are going to see this and they're going to be like, huh, what? Because most women, and I can't say all, but the conversation that is being had, especially on social media, a lot of women feel like a man would have to be damn near Superman to get that kind of treatment. So tell me a little bit, like I say, you say he's kind of the alpha male type. Shout out to your brother, Michael, by the way. What drew you to your husband? What was it about Michael that made you say, you know what, this is the man that I want to marry?
So when I first came out here to Minnesota, and I'm going to be honest with you, I've had such bad experiences with dating Black men. So I actually came to Minnesota like, I ain't dating no more black men. I'm done. I'm just going to focus on the white guys. And so when
Wow.
I put myself on the dating website,
So you were gonna be a divester.
I was, I was just going, oh, no, I'm done. Like I tried. I've been, soft spoken and feminine, and everything, and I just felt like I was attracting guys that wanted to abuse my femininity, and I think that's why some women do fear that
Yeah,
because they
I
see
hear that.
that
I
we're
hear
not.
that a lot.
And so it was just like, oh, I'm just gonna go over here to the white guys because I'm not gonna have no issues, with them. So I put myself on the website, and I was seeing, some white guys respond to me, but when Michael knew that I was in Minnesota, the first thing he said is, "Do you want help with your furniture? You want help? You want to help?" I'm like, I think I can put it together, but you're gonna need help. I know you want. And I said, okay, I think he wants to come see me.
Absolutely.
So I said, okay, you can come and help. So me being myself at that time, a little bit angry, and when he came, I was like, look, you're not getting no vagina, don't touch me, I basically laid out the list.
all the you ain'ts and you don'ts
You
and
ain't,
don't try it.
you ain't right. I was like, you're just gonna help me with my furniture, and that's it. So, but he was just like, okay, like he was just really receptive. Never pushed like trying to touch me or anything. What I liked at first was that he respected my boundaries. That
Okay.
was the first thing.
You hear that, fellas? You heard that? Like, I'm just trying to make sure the fellas pick up on the gems here, because I guarantee it's a lot of brothers, a lot of men, period. They're looking for a version of you for themselves out there somewhere.
Because to be honest with you, if and I'm gonna just be totally transparent, I feel if you feel like a man is respecting your boundaries, you're gonna want to give him some.
Please elaborate on that.
You're going because I found that attractive. That someone that respects, because that means he's not gonna abuse me. That means he's gonna protect me. That means he's gonna be sensitive to my body. So I felt attracted to that. The fact that he was just like, okay, there was no like attitude with that. He was just like, okay.
So
And
you
so
felt safe.
I felt very safe. And so we were putting the furniture together, and then he said, well, look, I'm in construction, so you need to follow my lead. And I said, okay. And so there's a guy that works, with him. They call him radio, which means that he's stupid, like. So he said, don't be radio. And I was like, okay. So he
Yeah.
was telling me to, follow him so we can put the bookshelf together. And then another question I asked him was, because he loved his marijuana when we first met. And I said, so if I were to date you and be in a relationship, would you stop smoking? He was like, yep. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. So that was another thing. The one thing that also got me was I was doing some questions, like showing him basically what I do in pathology. And then he said to me, I'm going to open my heart up to you. Please don't break it. And at that moment, I said, there's a vulnerability. There's a soft side to him.
Ooh, now I'm gonna tell you that is huge, because I actually heard this statement on another podcast that I like to talk. I like to listen to, called "We Need to Talk," and they made a statement. Women and men are different. Men will guard our hearts the way women will guard their vaginas. And again, you have to be trusted for a woman to open up her legs to give you a vagina, and for a man to open up his heart, that's a big step. So that was huge.
Yeah. So when he said that, because he didn't have to, and that was the first time a guy was even willing to say, I have a vulnerable part of myself.
Right.
Because so did I. Right. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So he worked about the contract for his job was about almost 2 hours away. So I had a 2-bedroom apartment. So I made him, comfortable in the other room.
Right.
I think one morning I woke up and he made me breakfast and stuff. And so he was doing these things that showed that he cared. Another thing is I needed a lock, extra lock for my door and latch. And so I asked him if he had an extra one. And he said yes, but no, he didn't. He went to the store
And got one.
and got one. And then when I saw that, I was like, oh, you didn't have to do that, you know? So I saw these little things. And then when he asked me out on a date, I said yes. And so I told anyone else that was interested that I was just gonna, focus on him. And that's
Wow.
basically, how it started. Now, he from the beginning, he thought because of how I dressed and what I did that I was, bougie, that I was gonna, look down on him because
Right.
he's construction, and he was like, oh well, she's not gonna like me because I work in tunnels, I work
That,
around.
that is a stigma that is out there. I mean, again, a lot of blue collar guys don't get the credit that they deserve for being hardworking, good earners. A lot of them make real good money, but yeah, just the stigma is, again, when you're blue collar and somebody else is white collar, they tend to move in different circles. So socially, they tend to look down on blue collar guys.
Now let me tell you, and I have my live going on, ladies, blue collar. Mm, when I need something fixed or something needs to be done, and I see him like out there fixing stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna cook him a real good meal. I don't know.
Hmm.
There's something special about blue collar.
Yeah.
Something special for me. I talked to other guys that were, doctors and attorneys. I actually found more of the white collar guys to be more assholes than than
Wow.
to be honest. Um, but your blue collar guys, like I don't know, it was it's been a good experience. But like I said, like we have a yang to the yang. Like he's
Right.
good with hand work and stuff. Even with managing the properties, he's really good with fixing things up. And
Yeah.
I just do the business stuff. Like I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna get this property here. This is the ARV. This is the comps, all of that other stuff. Working out the negotiation. Then I'm like,
Right.
all right, we got it. It needs to be fixed.
So y'all make a real good team together.
Yeah.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I was looking at one of your posts here, and I believe it was from October the 2nd. And you said, I work so hard to keep myself together, study hard at work, cook, etc. I'm tired sometimes, but I keep striving. My ultimate goal is to be a woman of all traits and abilities.
Yes.
Tell me what was going through your mind when you made that post.
Well, since I was a child, I know I always prayed. I was like, God, I want three things. I want beauty, brains, and business. Like those were the three things. So what I noticed especially in the African American, community, is that I feel like sometimes there's not an appreciation of someone that tries to diversify themselves in multiple areas, someone that does keep themselves together, someone that does value, education, and
Hmm.
someone that also wants to be domesticated as well, like
Yeah.
will work, you know, long hours and still have to come home.
Because
So
a lot of people don't think they can do both.
yeah, I think that, but even the ones that think that they can't, there's still a devaluation of the women that do. I find that especially women, would say stuff like, "Oh, you ain't a real doctor," or "Your degree ain't blah blah blah." Right. So a
Right.
lot of times that is said, and I just feel like there's a devaluation a lot for someone that wants to have attributes in all areas and not
Yeah.
just. I've been told that I dress like a slut, but I like to wear low cut shirts. And, even my dad, said to me, and he was like, oh, well, you are getting older. Shouldn't you, button up a little bit as you get older? I said, no, I'm going to be 80 with my saggy titties hanging out in the nursing home, telling the orderlies to come rub my feet and give me my medication, right? So
Well, again, your husband doesn't mind.
yes, yes. And so, but first, it's just about who you accepted yourself to be. Because
Right.
at first, I never wore low cut shirts, but that came one day. I was just like on the opposite side and was like, the hell with it. I'm
Yeah.
going to try it. And so I started to kind of step out to see what my sense of taste is. There's some things that I probably feel like, well, maybe that's a little bit too much. Let me tone it
Hmm.
down here, but let me up it there.
Yeah.
You know, like for instance, my nails. I can tend to keep my nails a little bit more modest because I like to have, more flamboyancy in other areas, right? So that's
Right.
kind of like how I, manage it. But I think that post was just about sometimes, over the course of time, just being devalued because of the things that I like and who I am. And
Yeah.
sometimes you feel like you try to be all, and then to some people it's still not good enough. And I think that's what I was feeling at that time.
And this is probably one of the biggest issues that I see online. Again, the persona that people are having online is usually much different from the reality that they exist in person. And the ability to just throw out random negative comments or troll people, like that's a whole real thing now on the internet, and they don't know you. They're not interacting with you, but they're just people. They just see your post, don't like it, and they just feel like they have a need or they're entitled to spew their negativity. And it honestly, it is hard to kind of separate it sometimes. How do you keep that mental health balance from the negativity online? Because again, you do post quite a bit online, you share your successes. I remember when some of your published research had hit a milestone of being read and watched by over 1,000 people. Like, you do, while you're doing things and accomplishing things, you got people in the peanut gallery who ain't doing nothing, that just got time to talk shit. And
Yeah.
why do we give it so much energy? I wonder.
Um, well, I think I have talked to my therapist about this, and I think that it comes to who you feel about yourself, I think.
Mhm.
So let's just say if you already struggle, let's say if I
Mhm.
already struggle with feeling like, maybe I'm not as successful as everyone else. And then somebody comes and says, like, oh, but your degree ain't shit. Like, what is a pathologist? Like
Yeah.
that. Nah, because they think because you don't see, people, which you do in transfusion medicine. I will be seeing live people, by the way.
Right.
But they feel like because you're not, prescribing medication or whatever, that's not real medicine. Meanwhile,
Mhm.
all the surgeons and dermatologists, they all come to a pathologist to be like, what does this patient have, right?
Yeah.
But I think that if somebody says something that you already struggle with, then that's when it's hard to get over.
Yeah.
If it's something that I don't care about, let's just say if somebody says, um, like, oh well, your kids look like blah blah blah. Like
Yeah.
I already know how my children look. I know how, but if they make a comment about me, I
Yeah.
mean, I look or something like that, and I'm already feeling some insecurity about my physical appearance, then it may be harder to get over. So then I would have to, talk to my therapist and mostly even, my husband,
Yeah.
the first one, because he lets things roll off his back. Like we're opposites. Like he's like a stone when it comes to people making, negative comments. He's, you know,
As a man, you got to be thick skinned. I mean, the world is not friendly to men. It's not easy. So yeah, we've got to be.
he has a lot of, like he has some, he was raised somewhat in, in the streets a little bit, so he
Right.
has more of, that type of, um, he has that kind, he has that kind of demeanor. Like his
Yeah.
demeanor is more me. I'm just a sponge. Like I take a lot of that stuff in. I'm like, oh my god, they said this, and he'd be like, you better stop that. But me, it hurts me because there's things I already struggle with within myself.
Right.
So I think that's why, for me, it's hard. I've had severe trollers. I've had people make multiple fake accounts, leave paragraphs of stuff on my page, calling me all kinds of names, all of this stuff. Even text messages. I think I made a post one day to say that I was going through my phone and I had so many text messages from men that perhaps they were just not nice during the talking phase.
Yeah.
I was just like, I don't think I, can deal with that. I don't know if I can stay. And
Right.
they'll send me messages, and I haven't seen them in 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
And then over a sudden, they come out of the blue, send me a whole bunch of negative messages saying that I never had value, nobody wanted me anyway, and stuff. And it was like, I haven't spoken to you in 2 years. Like, what made you think of me 2 years later?
Yeah. Yeah.
I had that too. So that hurts, when someone says, things like that, like you never had any value anyway, when you already question your value, especially coming from a child.
And this is one of the, I don't want to say sad, but it's just one of the unfortunate things about having wounds in your life that do make you a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more vulnerable, because you don't want to have that wound open for everybody. Because yeah, people with no reason other than their own issues will come and wound you because they're wounded, and we have to learn how to protect ourselves from that. And that sometimes is very difficult and challenging because of our own issues that we deal with, because nobody sees what we deal with on the inside unless we show them. And again, I know I've been very sensitive because I communicate. I'm in corporate sales. I'm on the phone 8 hours a day, getting hung up on, getting lied to. And because I communicate constantly, it's frustrating. And sometimes, like, I will literally have to just get up and walk away from my computer for a little while and not let what I'm dealing with, because I understand people are busy. They're not expecting my call and they just want to get off the phone, but they don't want to be rude. So they lie. And I'd prefer you to be honest and just tell me you're not interested. But we've become so accustomed to just open lying that a lot of times we do it without even thinking about it now. And
and being in sales is difficult. And I would say it's probably harder now because I feel like post COVID, the filter of what people think has definitely thinned.
Oh yeah.
I think severely. So now, I remember I tried to get into what is called like wholesaling properties and contacting people to say, like, I see that your properties in foreclosure. I would like to, help you, basically trying to connect them to investors who would, buy the property for cheap, and flip it, especially your fix and flippers.
Yeah.
Some of these I liked myself, and I was trying to be like, oh, well, I like this deal myself, so maybe see if I can invest. But the responses that people would get would be like, F you, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll look up my number, look up my name, and then be like, oh, and you have the nerve of you to be a doctor and get into this. But I understand that some of them are already under stress because they're in foreclosure.
They're dealing with hard times, and you look like a scavenger to them. Yeah. You coming to prey on me at my weakest moment and take advantage of me. That's how a lot of people feel. So I get it.
But they make money too in wholesaling. Like if it's like, look, if you owe 50,000, I'm like, okay, well, let's see if I'll buy it from you for 60. You can walk away with 10. You're in foreclosure. All right, you walk away with 10, and then I'll then sell it to someone else for 100 and make a $2,000 profit. I mean, that's
and they'll get mad at you for making a profit when they made a profit, but they want more. Like people are so weird like that. And God, we could honestly go on because there's so many questions I could ask you for real, Dr. Harvey. But I do want to kind of wrap this up because I don't want to go too long. in the arc of your story, now you've been through a marriage that didn't work. You're in a marriage happy now, and I'm glad to see you happy, because I remember when we first met, you were in that in between spot, because at that time I was just going through my divorce as well, and I remember some of the conversations we had, and my heart really went out to you, because I could tell you were really struggling with some things, but you kept it together, you persevered and persisted. So with all the lessons that you've learned up to now, and I'm really asking this question for my daughter, for all the other women out there who are going to see this interview, they're going to hear what you say, and they're going to have some questions of their own. But if you could go back and talk to the 16, 17-year-old version of Michele, knowing what you know now, what kind of advice would you give yourself for the life and the journey that was ahead of you?
I would say the most important thing is, and this is something I'm learning, but I should have started early, is self-love and self-acceptance. Because with that, if I accepted myself and I started loving myself earlier, then I would have been in tune into my intuition, into making my own decisions. I think that a lot of things that I did was first out of trauma, and also based on what I believe others wanted me to do. It was like,
Yeah.
no, you have to do this, you have to do that. But if I would have just accepted and be like, you know what, no, I want to leave New York. I want to go. I want to learn different things. I want to. If I was just in tune with that part of myself, I think that I would have made different decisions.
Wow.
In the beginning.
Wow.
And I think that that's probably the biggest thing.
Okay.
Now I feel like I'm making decisions based on first, like, what Michele wants.
Well, thank you, because again, I'm doing research now. Again, I'm actually, because of all the mistakes I've made and everything I've learned, and what I'm seeing out here, I'm really trying to put together like my version of Think and Grow Rich, but for relationships. So it's the dating game. I'm rewriting the rules so people can win. And I've actually identified a couple different levels. And, based upon age, culture, there's so many variables. I wanted to give kind of a concise, fundamental principle based way of organizing and structuring relationships, so people can at least communicate on the same level. And the basic levels are the casual. A lot of people just want to hook up, have fun, don't want any responsibility, don't want to be accountable, just coming and going. There's a lot of people out there like that. The second level would be the committed level, and usually it's a monogamous relationship. It could be a poly, it could be an open relationship, but you have a boundary. You're accountable to the people you are involved with and how y'all interact. Then there's the established level, which is where you're at now. You want to be married, have a family, you want to build legacy. All three of these levels have different rules, different ways that you're going to operate and move. And what happens is I see a lot of people who get in relationships and they don't have a purpose for the relationship. They're just hooking up. And one person may want to be committed while the other person wants to be casual. Or one person may want to get married and be established, but the other person just wants to stay in the committed relationship and maybe fluctuate down to the casual. So
I think a lot of people need to first find out who they really are. And that's what I said, that goes to like the self-acceptance, finding out who I really am.
yeah,
Because I went from thinking, oh no, I just want marriage and stuff like that. But then, in the period of me separating out of my marriage, I had somewhat of a whole phase. Okay, where I was experimenting a little bit with, how's a female over here, and then I kind
right.
of got into the, well, you know, and that was just me, just really trying to figure myself out, and
Yeah.
and I was in my, early 30s, around that time. But I think that a lot of people don't have like the therapy and actually just being in tune into who they really are, so they can healthily express that. And
Yeah.
some guys don't, they'll say, well, yeah, I want to be serious. And then they just do stuff to, sleep with you, and then after that, then
Yeah.
they.
And that's, oh God, that's the other thing is stop lying. Like man, women, I don't care who you are, stop lying to people about what you want. You'd be surprised how many people will honestly be cool with you as long as you're honest. If you just want to have sex, tell people, hey, look, I'm not trying to build a relationship. I just want to get my groove on a few times and we'll see what happens from there. But don't add the extra because you think that's what you need to do to get what you want. That part there would help a whole lot of people. So
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, because a woman, I mean, she may get mad, but if a guy was upfront with that from the beginning to say, that's all I want, and then you give into that, you can't be mad at him if, he just is like, oh, no, that's all I wanted, and I'm just on to the next. Like you knew what it was from the beginning. But the lie is what hurts. The lie is what hurts. So just be honest.
Just be honest. So with that, I'll give you the last 30 seconds here as we close up, Dr. Harvey. Any parting words, anything that you want to say, words of wisdom you want to leave the world with as we close up?
Oh my God, words of wisdom. I know that we talked about a lot, during this, hour. I would definitely say the most important thing, and it's something that I'm learning, especially women, you experience sexual trauma, sexual assault. The first thing before getting into any relationship is the self-love, self-acceptance, finding out who you really are, and having that period of time to even look for that. Be in search of, what does your soul want? What does your soul need? I think once you get in tuned into that, you'll approach dating differently, and you will find your soulmate.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harvey. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I hope this isn't the last time we get a chance to have a conversation on camera and do an interview. Again, please give my respect to your husband. Thank him for allowing you to do this interview. And again, everybody else, y'all, please comment, like, share. Y'all go check out Dr. Harvey. Again, you can find her. I know she's on Facebook. Is there anything else that you're doing or that you'd want to promote or put out there?
Oh, I'm doing a whole lot of things. Right now is trying to evict a really bad tenant, but I am getting into the real estate investing. So I'm going to get back into that. I do own some properties. And another thing is my daughter and I started e-commerce. We'll be putting out, bags, accessories for women. So that will be also coming out soon as well. So
we're gonna do a show on real estate. Then we're gonna let you do a show on real estate. So
real estate, stock, options trading. Those are all of things that I do outside of residency, because I believe in having a diversified portfolio. And that would be another hour discussion too. So.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dr. Harvey, for joining me. We'll definitely talk again. You have a fantastic evening.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Well, there you have it, everybody. This is the final part. I want to wrap this up. I got it. She's so interesting, so intelligent. We could talk to her for hours. But please, comment, like, share, subscribe to the channel. Look out for my ebook coming up, The Dating Game, Rewriting the Rules So You Can Win. Again, you can pre-order the upcoming book for $13. Just go to the Cash App, Mr. M. Scott 76. Put that in the note. That is your promo code, The Dating Game, and then just email your receipt to brothermarkscott@gmail.com. With that being said, I'm going to wrap this interview now. Brother Mark Scott, as always, man, I end with nothing but love. I want everybody out there to just be encouraged.